So what we are going to do is we have Sandy Cooper with us and Diamond, who I mentioned, and we're going to start. Kim is going to, and Hans is here. Hey, Hans. Kim is going to, I'm seeing people from all over the world who I haven't seen in ages, which is why I'm getting so excited. We're going to start with Kim sharing a story from her perspective as an advisor, how she kind of went through this process and how the practices have worked for her. And then what we're hopeful of is that we can have, and Yulcha, we can have a conversation with everybody who's here, and people can ask questions and share thoughts and share ideas, and Sandy and Kim and Diamond will jump in and offer insights, and then at the end, we'll end with a chance for people to offer a word of reflection, and for Sandy and Diamond to each offer a couple of minutes of reflection. So that's how we see the next 25 minutes going. Right. And I am going to share the screen so that Kim will have pictures for her story. And I am turning it over to Kim. And when we come back to share, I'm going to try and organize that in some way if I can figure it out so that everybody gets a chance to share. Okay, Kim, it's all you.
Okay, so I work for a beautiful woman named Candice. And Candice is a very loving and kind person, but her greatest gift is bringing joy to everyone's life. Candice moved into her own apartment about 2 years ago. So this is one of the first pictures of her, preparing her first meal in her apartment, or one of the first meals in her apartment. One of the practices that we have that we've already talked about is walking around neighborhoods, discovering our neighborhoods. And in doing that, we created a few practices. So when we first joined Candice, we met her, her family, her friends. One of the first things we did was we sat down, we ate a meal together, and we got to know the family, we got to know some friends, and we just got to hear great things about Candice. So it was myself and a couple of other people who were going to be working for Candice. That was one of the first things that we did, was just sit around with the people who love her. The next thing that we did, which my partner Carla, my good friend Carla, and I, we were going to be meeting with Patti and Diamond, and we planned this very exciting day. We were going to walk up and down Candice's neighborhood. I knew the neighborhood, Carla knew the neighborhood, and we wanted to go up and down Main Street. We wanted to go to Central Avenue. We wanted to go to the fire station. We had these great places we were going to take Patti and Diamond and just show them the people that we knew. And unfortunately, it rained that day. So it rained on our parade. So now Carla and I are soaking, but thankfully Diamond was there and he had another plan. And he took us to this woman named Mindy's house. So we go into this house where everybody's soaking wet because it's raining, and we planned this day and, trying to find parking, and we're invited into the home of Mindy and like uninvited guests, like trying to find a place to go. And we walk in and there's a bunch of people in the living room sitting around a round table on computers like they were planning something. And here we come and we tiptoe into the kitchen. They were really kind to us. We had some tea. We introduced ourselves, but as you can know that they were having a meeting. So we left back out, but one of our practices is to be hospitable. So it was suggested that I bake some cookies. I'm not a baker, so I went to Panera Bread, got some cookies, and I wrote a note to Mindy, and I thanked her for allowing us to come into her home and giving us some tea. This connection and I still say it to this day, this connection was a match made in heaven, because Mindy and her daughter Molly were community organizers, and they put together every month at their local church a potluck dinner. So now Candice was now introduced to Mindy and Molly. One of the practices, another practice that we do is to keep the connection, to follow through. So I followed through on the people that we met. And now Candice gets to meet them. We're going out. Candice is going out to every event every month. She's bringing her own dish, which is her mother's famous meatballs, which now has become Candice's favorite meatballs. And so Candice is bringing her meatballs, but then there's another idea that came up. And so these prototypes are so innovative. And the idea was like, Candice can really show up in a major way by inviting the guy that you see here is Mike Mathers. He's the author of this book called Having Nothing, Possessing Everything. So the group at University of Orange, they were reading his book. Now, Candice knows the Iman and Patti, who were able to allow her to then show up in this major way by inviting Mike to come, to speak, to do a book signing. So Candice was able to contribute and add value to the University of Orange by not just bringing her meatballs, but by inviting this author, someone who was a community organizer himself, someone who this group was excited. So this was, like I said, a match made in heaven. So now Candice, she's showing up there, bringing her gifts, her talents, inviting Mike. And now the summertime comes and they have an opportunity for Candice to start volunteering. So here's Candice now. She's volunteering at the community. This is one of the team members, Jennifer, with her. And they just have this wonderful day of volunteering. And so this is like this is like her first year, like our first 7 to 8 months. And so things were just like, wow, look at these great opportunities that Candice has in the community. She also volunteers at a nursing home because one of the teammates, Carla, does work at a nursing home doing hair. So Candice started to volunteer at a local nursing home, helping with that, doing hair. And then we had some health challenges going on, not just with Candice, but the team. We were all wanting to get in shape. And so Candice, one of the things Candice likes to do, she likes to walk. So Candice just started walking in her neighborhood. That's her picture with doing hair. That was her picture right there. She's helping out with the hair. So she volunteered there. So she went from like moving out of her parents' apartment home to her own apartment, volunteering, just showing up, having a book signing, just having this full life. And so there was like a little health concern. So we started to think of ways to help Candice and to help ourselves become more fit, and started to focus on our health and wellness. So Candice started walking her community. She started walking at the local Y. And so then the team and I put together this idea, let's have a Candice Cares walk. So we started just telling people, we're going to do a walk. We're going to do a walk as the summer ends. This will be our way to end the summer. It was the second week in September 2019. It was the Candice Cares About Her Community, a wellness walk. All of us invited people, and the neighbors invested. They gave us a grant, and we invested in giving gifts. Like whoever bought the most walkers, they got a gift. So Candice ended up bringing the most walkers. Of course, one person that Candice invited brought 10 people with them. They got the prize. But this was just amazing because each person on Candice's team were able to invite people. And as you can see, I think it was at least 50 people there. So that was just the practice of allowing Candice, she does what she does. She's a people person. So she's able to just show up in this major way, and people love her. And as you can see, everyone came out to support her walk. So she is a contributing member of her community. That's the practice that we have to make sure that she not only is involved in activities, but that she's showing up in a major way, that she's bringing her gifts, bringing her talents, bringing all of herself, the same way we try to bring all of ourselves into the work that we do. So that's the practice. And as I end this, I just wanted to go back to what I said about prototyping. Prototyping it can be innovative and fun and different, but it can also be scary. But I promise you, if you can just trust yourself, that failure, you learn from failing, you learn from trying, and you may get something else out of it. You may try for this and find out you get something else. So that's what I'm walking away with from the work that we do, the practices. And lastly, the practices help me personally. I haven't been invited to a lot of our talks and time that we speak. I bring it home with me. I bring this ability to try new things and not be afraid, and prototyping and telling my grandbaby, let's just try it. And so we've been trying different things. So I'm grateful for the practice, because I used to be quiet when we first started these things many years ago, and now it just helped blossom me out. And now that I was poured into from Patti, and I helped to pour into the people that we work into. So my last thing would be a question. So if there was anything that I've said or that Patti said that you're interested in learning a little bit about, now is the time you can ask, or anything, whatever you wanted to talk about, prototyping, walking, neighborhoods. We're here to talk, me, Sandy, Patti, and DMI. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. You did a great job with that. That was awesome, telling of Candice's story. So we would love, because I know y'all have been listening for like an hour, and we would love to hear from people. So honestly, I'm not sure how to make it all work, but how about if people have something to say, if they just kind of raise their hand, literally raise their hand, and come off mute and go ahead and talk, because I'm not sure how to make the hand raising thing work in the Zoom stuff. So thoughts, questions, comments, reflections, anything at all.
And y'all can use the chat too.
Yeah, the chat would be great. Thank you.
So I guess I have a question. You know, how have things, how has COVID impacted things? I know that's an obvious question, but this was all, the story was from 2019. I'm just curious if you've been able to come up with any, you know, good strategies for kind of continuing this type of work.
Yeah, it's a great question. Sandy, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Not to put you on the spot, but Sandy is a brilliant leader of this team of people who are continuing the work, by the way.
Yeah, COVID has been challenging for us, just like with everyone else. And in situations for Candice and other people, we seem to all be living on Zoom, and we seem to be being really creative when the weather was nice, meeting in places in the parks and places like that, where we could create spaces for people. And I'll give a for instance, because we talked a lot about Candice, and I think Candice did a lot on Zoom, and I think they hosted birthday parties and some other chats that they were doing on Zoom with groups of people that she's been involved in. We've also had some folks that really need to be out in the community, walking, moving, and staying healthy, both physically and with mental health. And they were meeting up in the parks with small groups of people, sitting their chairs far enough apart to be able to enjoy each other. They'd bring their own lunches. It was set up through a friend list. Somebody wanted to invite their friends out. They weren't quite sure how to do it successfully and not have folks at risk. So when things opened up a little bit, outside venues were the best places to go, and that's what we used. So we have one young woman that she has a standing date with her friends. They go to the park, they take their chairs, their lunch, they stay nice and safe. They're able to chat and catch up with each other, and they can have the face-to-face moments with one another, not just, you know, on a Zoom call or on FaceTime or over the phone. We found that those small things have really helped folks be big things. So they stay connected. The other thing that we were doing, a few of our individuals who are out there working or volunteering in their church communities were able to still do some of that stuff, and they were able to go, and even if it was to deliver food to somebody who needed it, or to have a way to contribute back into the community, still contributing into the community, there were ways for us to be able to do some of that. We also have a couple people, and there's something that's happening right now where we're real worried about the cold coming. We're worried about people being ill, and there's someone who's working on putting backpacks together that he can take out and deliver into the local community for people. Then they have some PPE in there. They have a few things that they might really need that we feel is important: blanket, PPE stuff, a few snacks that are going to be in there, some water that can be dropped off to folks that are in need that might need it. And what we found in doing that is we're still present, people are still contributing, and they're feeling good about their contributions, and it's being supported. So their areas of interest, they're still able to get out and about. But also what's happening is they're being viewed by their community members as true participants and citizens in their communities, which is really, really important, you know, that we're showing up places with people. As scary as all of this is, like the prototyping was scary, but this is a whole other level of scary for people. Are we making the right decisions? Are we getting out there? So we're just following what we feel are just best practices with people to make sure that we're safe, but also so lives don't just sit still during this entire, you know, period of time, because we don't know when this is going to end. People have hosted birthday parties on Zoom and have their families join them. And they've also done exchanges of food where they've been able to drop off something if they know that mom is having a hard time because she's an elder mom, maybe not being able to go inside at certain times, be able to drop off something, and they get back online and they do a FaceTime or a phone call, depending on what that person can do to keep them connected to friends and family.
Thanks, Sandy.
I'd like to add, Katie, if it wasn't for 2017, 15, you could not cold call and do Zoom calls. The point being that one of the things that I've witnessed from outside is that there's a culture of being cultivated, of being a good neighbor. So now that people who are now good neighbors are now being illustrated as people who are now essential workers. And so this work, meaning that this work has to be ingrained before a crisis happens and when the crisis is over with. And so how do we shift the whole structure, institutional structure, and start building these flexible fabrics, right, that weave in that being a good neighbor is the cornerstone of community life.
So just so I'm clear, you're building on what Sandy said, that people are figuring out ways to keep it going, but it's the investment in the good times that make it work in the hard times. Yeah.
Yeah, people starting this yesterday will struggle.
Yeah.
But you know, we struggled for a good year. I will tell you the truth. We were doing this for a year or so, and Diamond and I and Sandy, Diamond, when he comes, he stays at my house. So you know, we go on to all hours of the day and night and early morning, but we'd be like, well, people are really trying hard, but we're not really getting our message across really well. So it just takes time. It's like an investment, but it's like such a friggin' worthwhile investment, I think, to take the time to do this kind of stuff, to put some resources aside to invest in the people who work here and the people they work for, to invest our time in walking around neighborhoods with people. It's an investment that just really makes sense to me.
Well, and I think this is an issue.
And then Janie.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you go first, and then Janie. I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance. Thanks.
Okay. I was just wanting to say that this is such a bigger issue than in the disability community. I mean, the issue of being good neighbors is an issue for almost everyone, almost everywhere. I mean, we have, or at least in the United States, since I haven't lived outside of the United States, but in the United States, I think we have become really bad neighbors all the way around. And so, I mean, this is an issue that we all need to work on in every part of our lives. And it happens to really benefit people with disability, but I think it really benefits all of us a lot. And this crisis is just showing us again how stark that deficit is, and that we need to work on it.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Janie?
Yeah, I agree with what Anne was saying. I suppose I just wanted to share something with you and then maybe ask a question at the end. Is that okay? I'm in Scotland, if people can't realise that from the accent. It's lovely to see people that some of you have only ever heard of, so I'm quite excited. I work delivering leadership training to, just so you know a bit about me, called Partners in Policymaking, nationally in Scotland. Been doing this work for over 20 years. Patti and Dave have been at the very table that I'm sitting at many times. Yeah, there's no whiskey around me at the moment. But we also have two sons, Ewan and Ross. And Ross, our youngest son, has some support needs. And he loves being out in the car, as Patti knows. That's what really grounds him. He needs to be out in the car every day. So during the initial lockdown in Scotland, in a past life, before I did this work, I used to teach sewing, and still love to sew and create and things. So I'm very taken by Beth's thread collection behind her. I'm completely distracted by that when you were speaking. Sorry. So one of the things so I was making scrubs for the NHS, because I kind of went into how can we help. We had I don't know whether you had a shortage of PPE and where you are. So I was sewing scrubs and also face coverings, and we were donating them around the village, but Ross was actually delivering them, which was really good. So he was getting to go out in the car, he had a purpose, he kind of got to know people. But one of the other things that Ross loves to do, which obviously changed completely, is he loves to eat out, and he loves to go to shopping malls. I'm going to use the American terminology. And he doesn't like to shop, but he likes to draw the logos and maps and all these kind of things. So they're all shut. But what he started to do to ground himself, which was quite remarkable, was when he was out in the car, he wanted to know where all the hospitals were locally and roundabout, because obviously he has probably loads of understanding. He doesn't speak very much to communicate, but he can read. Yeah.
Janie, I just want to let you know that we're down to about 1.5 minutes left in the group. So
he was visiting hospitals and rolling down the window and shouting, "Stay safe, everyone." So that was his way of grounding himself. How can we expand on that, I suppose, was my question. How can we, but we maybe don't have time to answer the question.
Well, we have 1.5 minutes. I wanted to give Diamond and Sandy a chance to give some reflections, but they both had a little bit of a chance so far. Do either of you want to answer that question, and then we can do a final thought for the group?
I just thinking that how often we do things alone and have those stories be isolated. And so instead, I think, how do we weave this in back? I think the story that Kim told so just brilliantly was that it takes a community and also a structure to be good neighbors in. So what other people want to join you in that practice?
So who else can show up at the same time as Ross does, maybe even in their own car, and shout the "Be Well"? Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry we don't have more time. It looks like we're down to under 20 seconds.
Can whoever wants to think with you not leave their email address in your, send you a comment?
That sounds great.
In the chat. I'll send you something in the chat.
Okay, and we also have 1 minute left. So, and there'll be on December 2nd, we're going to do a follow-up with Sandy and Diamond. Well, Sandy and Kim and her team are going to lead it, and Diamond and I are going to support it and be part of it. But it'll be 2 hours to really have a conversation and get into this. So anybody who really wants to get into this should come. Like Yulcha looks like she's going to be one of those people.
And I've got some ideas that I'm not going to share because I just want to see what other people think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Does anybody have a closing comment they want to make? Go ahead, Rima. You want to say something?
Janie, one of the ideas that I wanted to say to Scott is maybe if he could record his voice and have that shared with others so his voice can be echoed, would be a fantastic idea. I've done that with one of the people I work with who also has autism, and it worked really, really well. So that might really work well with him. And yes, I would love to be part of the December conversation.
Cool. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts that they want to share? I typed into the chat, thanks to you all for being part of the conversation. I just wish I had more time with you all.
Shout out to Essex County. Yay!
Hey, Colin. County.
Great. Oh,
You're all in the big room.
yeah, we're going.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm having a sense we could have gone on longer, and that's going to be the beauty of really being able to connect later in the longer sessions. But John, we want to turn to you for a bit of harvest.
So I'd like to invite you, if you would, to just take a minute. I'll time us. Just take a minute and reflect back all the way to whenever you signed in, whenever you began to hear Garima drumming, and just see if you can identify some of the things that have landed for you, some of the things that have resonated with your experience or given you a new perspective or some encouragement. So just a minute to kind of reflect and recover what has resonated for me in this last hour. Okay, there are two ways to share what's stood out for you in the time that we've had so far. One is to speak out, and the other is to enter your thought in the chat. So if something has struck you that wants to be heard by everybody, please take a turn.
John, I'd just like to say, my name is Lisa. I just like to say I appreciate so the creativity that has shown up. I just came out of one group, and just the other offerings that went forth prior to us being put in different groups. It just so uniquely and different and varied. And so I so appreciate coming in contact with the various methods through the various methods of creativity. Very enlightening and encouraging all at the same time.
Thank you, Lisa.
I want to share how resilient our most vulnerable are. they don't seem to amaze us. We worry about them. We think that because they have disabilities and deficits that they're not going to be able to cope